Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this special quorum court meeting to order. The purpose of this meeting is to continue working on items pertaining to the 2016 budget process. The prayer and the pledge is going to be handled by J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Madam Judge. I'd like to introduce my good old dear friend, Rabbi Jacob Adler with Temple Shalom, who's agreed to lead us in prayer tonight.
Can you hear me if I stand up? Okay. Just a word before I begin the prayer. The great Jewish leaders of the 18th and 19th century, the Hasidic masters, said, if you want your prayer to be answered, you need to pray for the whole universe. I thought I would mention, especially in a government assembly, Rabbi Kook, the great rabbi of the early 20th century, said that religious people need atheists to keep us honest. And he said that's their divine role. So I include atheists in my prayer, even though it is in the name of God. God of the universe, we ask you to bless the universe, the work of your hands with all its wonders and mysteries. Our galaxy with all the creatures in it, the ones we know about and the ones we don't know about. Our solar system with water on Mars and Pluto, maybe a planet and maybe not. Planet Earth, may we have the wisdom to love it and care for it and live on it in peace. North America with all its wondrous varieties of people. The United States, the home of liberty and justice, may we have the wisdom and forbearance and courage to live with that wisdom, to live with that justice and freedom. The state of Arkansas, our beautiful home. Washington County, may we have the wisdom to live in it. And whatever role you have assigned to the citizens of Washington County to perform in your universe, may we have the grace and wisdom to perform it as you would have us do, so that you will look down from heaven and say to the angels, look down at my citizens in Washington County. And God will smile with pride, and the angels will nod. And most of all, on this evening, our leaders assembled here in this room, as you govern the universe with wisdom, grace, kindness, and mercy, so may they govern our county, and may you help them to do so. And in particular, as they are tonight the stewards of our wealth, may you give them the wisdom to distribute it and spend it with wisdom and courage and compassion. And may they see the rewards of their works, and may we all be able to be thankful to them at the end of the day. And we say amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We do appreciate your service. Carter, would you call the roll, please?
Daniel Balls.
Here.
Harvey Bowman.
Here.
Rick Cochran. Robert Dennis.
Here.
Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison.
Here.
Sharon Lloyd.
Here.
Tom Lundstrom.
Here.
Eva Madison.
Here.
Sue Madison.
Here.
Joe Maxwell.
Here.
Gary McHenry.
Here.
Joe Patterson. Butch Pond.
Here.
Bill Ussery.
We do have a quorum present, and I would like to report Lisa called and said she's on her way, and evidently she's got caught in traffic, so she will be here. I don't think Rick will be here tonight, and I would like to know, has anyone talked with Mr. Patterson about his knee surgery? Does anyone know about that report? Okay, none of us. Okay. I know on the 20th he was supposed to have his knee surgery, and I just hope he's doing okay. Thank you very much. Next you have in front of you is the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Do I have a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same side. We're going to move right on into the budgets. The first one we're going to have is going to be the county clerk. Ms. Becky, would you like to come forward and tell us what you know or what you want or what you're going to do? That'll be on page 78. I'm 79 and 80. Did you not get a copy of the other? Okay.
I apologize. Oh, wait.
Becky, do you have a statement, or do you want to just start asking questions?
Just start asking questions. It's a general election year. It's going to be a big one, so just keep that in
Okay,
mind.
ladies and gentlemen, she's ready for you. J.P. Harbison?
Okay, looks like on page 79, if I look at this correct, looks like you're down $2,217. Is that correct?
I guess I don't have the exact. I just have the request. I don't have the pages that you
Okay,
have. So
but you've held a pretty tight budget.
yes, I stayed within the restraints that we were given last year.
Okay, well, thank you. We appreciate that. I have something else a little bit later that we'll discuss.
Sure.
Thank you, Judge.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to adopt her budget?
Madam Chair, I guess I better go, if no, I thought there would be more
Okay.
discussion.
Go ahead, Ann.
Okay, if everyone will turn to budget summary, page 31. Okay,
Ann, is your mic on?
no.
Thank you.
I've talked to Becky extensively about this fund. It's the county clerk's automation fund. For this year, she had $1 million in it to budget, and she's budgeted $152,950. She has $873,000 left that's not being used. And this is just a fund sitting there. You should have a handout in your packet that says probate county matters and miscellaneous court fees. Has everybody found that sheet? It's not in the book. It's in your handout that Carly handed out today. It says, well, it doesn't have a page number, but if you'll turn the page of your handout, it says funds set aside for automation may be allowed to accumulate from year to year or at the discretion of the clerk may be transferred to the county general fund by a budgeted appropriation transfer. And Becky has consented to transfer enough money for raises for the county employees for a 2% raise. And the figures are correct. That's $563,808.84. This is one-time money, so I know that there will be some discussion on using one-time money. But at least we could give a bonus with this money if we do not want to put it into salaries. Becky has made this offer. I think it's something that we need to look at to help us meet our budget projections. Do you have any comments you want to make, Becky?
No, I just know the girls and guys would really appreciate, any form of bonus or a raise if possible. I know that it's one-time money, so that's going to be hard to do.
Okay.
But it's a morale booster.
Okay, thank you.
J.P. Lundstrom.
I'm always a little hesitant about taking money like this and giving it to individuals. If you just put it in the general fund, and there's enough money in the general fund to give raises or whatever, I see that as a little different proposition. Because I'm sure you're not wanting to guarantee that you can pay this 2% raise for the rest of these employees' life,
No, sir.
right?
No, sir.
This is one time.
And that's what we will have to do.
Sure.
So our budget being as tight as it is, I'm a little concerned about that. Now, the bonus may be a different issue. But I remember when the last court clerk left, she gave $50,000 to cover the employees' insurance increase for that year. But she didn't do it for the following years, which was very generous of her, but it's really not her money to give. So that's always been my concern with these things. But I do appreciate bringing it forward so we know that the money's available and so forth. Thank you, Judge.
J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Judge. I'm curious, how long did it take that money to accumulate?
The last large purchase we made were the poll books, and that was in 2013, and that was, I believe, like $120,000. But it would be hard for me to give you an exact timeline of how long it's taken for that money to accumulate. But there's not a lot of large purchases like the $120,000 for the tablets. There's not a lot of larger purchases like that.
Well, because it looks to me like it's more than an annual accumulation, and so I'm a little worried about taking all that from you, because
Sure.
it won't replenish very quickly. And I just sort of, with some of the changes coming election-wise, I was a little worried about depleting your funds. What have you expended your costs for context, or do you have more? I know you had some.
Kyle's picking up the rest of the context. Thanks, Kyle.
I have a bridge I'm going to try to sell Kyle later. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. He seems to be picking up a lot of the slack. Okay. I mean, I think it's a very generous offer. I think I would be more inclined to do it in a form of a bonus so that we're giving the money to the employees, but I just don't want them, I don't know how we're going to sustain it. But I am a little worried about sort of wiping out all your funds that have accumulated over several years if you might need them.
Sure.
So I might look at the projections before I kind of make a final decision, but it is a very generous offer. Thank you.
J.P. Maxwell.
Judge, and thanks for your generosity. I think that's really nice to have everybody pulling together, and I know it's appreciated all the way around. I'd kind of like to follow up with that question from J.P. Madison. I wonder if Bobby or Cheryl could help us understand just roughly how long it took for this account to accumulate $820,000.
Brings in about $120,000 a year.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
120. Is that all? Oh, I'm sorry.
And then I guess, just because I want to make sure we don't cloud up too many issues, are you okay if there is some portion of that we all agree and you're good with donating that to the general reserves? Are you okay with that coming just to the general reserves and not absolutely being earmarked right up front for bonuses or raises, or do you have a preference on that?
I would prefer it to go for a bonus or a raise, but I mean, I can cooperate. If it's for the good of everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Judge.
J.P. Dennis.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and no offense with anything that I say.
Sure.
I'm on some medication, so I might say the wrong thing, but I might not even know what I say. So anyway, and that's no different than normal. One thing, I don't like it being called a donation. I think it's taxpayers' money. You know, it's taxpayers' money either way, and so taxpayers end up paying it. And so with that, I do appreciate you thinking of your employees, and I think that you're doing the right thing by managing it that way. But I'll tell you this way. When I made $100,000 a year, I liked 2% increases. When I went down to $25,000 a year, I don't like them anymore. Okay? So, 2% of 25 is a whole lot less than 2% of 100.
Sure.
And so I see a big discrepancy on who gets what whenever you do it that way. And this person at the bottom never gets up because they're always getting 2% and not very much. So I'd say that along with it as well. I just don't like percent increases. I like specific amounts. Thank you.
J.P. Bowman.
Thank you, Judge. Becky, I think Mr. Maxwell addressed part of my question about, was this contingent on just it being used for salaries or bonuses?
I just discussed it with Ann and George Butler on the salary front. I didn't discuss it going to anywhere else, but like I said, I would be willing to cooperate.
Okay.
If it
Well,
benefited
the
everyone.
other thing I thought about was, rather than completely deplete that, if we just used a portion of $500,600,000 and left quite a lot in there for any kind of contingency you might come up with, would that be an acceptable agreement too, if you just put the rest into the general fund?
I would consider that.
Okay. Well, I think at this time, Becky, I guess I'm wondering, your comment about boosting morale. Can you address the morale issue for us?
I mean, like Mr. Dennis said, you know, when I first started here, I made $9.22 an hour, and so even a bonus would help Christmas, things like that. And a raise would definitely be, we would prefer that. I'm sure they would prefer it, but, I mean, I understand the whole one-time money thing, for sure.
Well, I guess ever since I've been on the court, we've given raises every year. I guess some of these years, I know Social Security's not going up this year, and a lot of other things not going up this year. And I understand the morale issue, and I'd ask you to go ahead and consider putting it in the general fund and allowing us to go ahead and take a look at all the numbers before we make a final decision about bonuses and salaries. But I don't think that's the place to really hash that out tonight.
Okay.
But I thank you. I appreciate your generosity. Thank you, Becky.
J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Madam Judge. Is this list where the funds come from that flow into this account?
I'm assuming I have just a copy of the statute. That's not what you
Okay.
have in your hand, but,
It's miscellaneous court fees, articles of incorporation?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. And none of those have any guidelines for how they're to be used?
It's operating fund automation. 35% of what is spent out of that fund does have to be for automation purposes. That's why-
35% has to be for automation.
Yes, that's why I
And-
moved all my computer-related items to this fund last year.
So for the past, I think I determined it took 7.25 years to accumulate that money based on the 120. Have you fulfilled the automation requirement every year?
Yes, ma'am. That's pretty much the only thing that comes out of there currently is automated. There's a small line item for supplies, but basically it's all computer IT, lease, software support. About 15,000 of the software support is for the EA tablets, so that's a large chunk as well. So I do believe that the 35%.
Well, I'm curious, what all is classified as automation? Is it just computers? Is there a definition?
I would hate to give you the incorrect automation. It just says to purchase, maintain, and operate an automated record system. So it's very broad. I mean, you could probably get different definitions from different people.
Would it cover your internet expenses? or
All my internet comes out of there as well.
all your
yes.
internet comes out of there?
Everything,
Does,
fax, phone.
does anybody in your office have county cell phones that come out of that? Okay. Are any of these revenue sources of the type that fluctuate from year to year?
Marriage license are pretty steady. Part of this comes from marriage DBAs. These are pretty general. They don't really fluctuate too much, really.
Recording ministers' credentials. We do things like that.
$5 to record your minister's credentials so that you can perform marriages
Okay.
in Arkansas.
Why do we collect $25 from alcoholics and insane persons? And who determines that they,
That we don't
that they
actually,
are?
the prosecuting attorney's office files the mental commitments, but we don't actually collect
That's a
any
mental commitment.
fees from alcohol commitments or mental commitments.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, this is probably an older list as well.
So some of these don't generate much money at all.
Sure, like there's
Which is the big money
articles of incorporation,
articles of incorporation?
businesses,
Limited
marriage
partnerships.
license, small estates. That would be a larger one.
Are all of these fees set by statute?
Yeah.
Or are they set by county ordinance?
I believe that most of them are statute because this, I would assume that this statute.
The reason I ask is,
Sure.
since it seems to be such a bonanza of money, I wonder if we had the authority, if we shouldn't think about reducing it. I mean, we do want people to get married, and sometimes a marriage
That's
license.
the state set fee, the $60
That's the
for
state-
the
that
marriage
was the
license.
state.
And of course, parts of it goes to domestic peace fund, children's trust fund.
I'm unfamiliar with all those little
Yep.
tags we put on things like that. Okay. Well, I have to say that I am dead set against using one-time money for any salary increases.
Sure.
I would be happy to have this come into the general fund if that's your desire, but I think it should come in without strings attached. Thank you, Madam Judge.
I'm going to let Attorney Zaga, he has a couple, and then I'm going to recognize, I've got two more members of the court to recognize. Go ahead.
Judge, thank you. Just an informational in general for the court's knowledge. Back when the people of Arkansas passed Amendment 80 in 2000, the legislature then pretty much took the counties out of the business of setting court fees in general. We used to have, long time ago, we used to have that power. Yeah. And so you could go to Benton County, for example, and it cost $88 to file a civil lawsuit. You come down here, it costs you $95 for no particular rhyme or reason other than the Benton County Quorum Court set their fees differently than we did. The legislature decided to enact uniform fees for all of these things. And there have always been some state set fees, but they're pretty much out of your purview now.
J.P. Pond.
Becky, after reading this and listening to the discussion, and I appreciate you would like to at least give a bonus to the employees. I understand that it's one-time monies. But I also read on here that it's at the discretion of the clerk that this money may be transferred. So at this point, I would say, I'd have a tendency to say, okay, we could use it for a bonus. Because that would be one-time monies. But I'm not going to go so far as to say that I believe you ought to just turn it over to the Quorum Court with the notion that then we could do with it what we want to if you put it in the general. Because then we're kind of getting around at the discretion of the clerk. If you come back to us and with another thing, something else you would like to have that money used for that was one time, something that's one-time monies, I might agree with that. Or if you came back to us later and said, yeah, I thought about it and I want to just put it in the general. But I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
J.P. Harbison.
Okay, I think this is a common sense approach to providing a bonus or some kind of salary raise to our county employees. If we go with the 2%, and I'm not saying that we give a 2% raise, I'm saying that we take that money and somehow divide it up into salaries. Now, if we go with a 25-cent hour, if you've got your sheet from Johansson, that's a little, well, it's $461,739.21. While we had a 2% raise, it's $563,808.84. All right. Now, if we went with a 2%, that still leaves $309,291.16 for Becky to use for emergencies in her fund. If we only take out the amount for the 2% raise, doesn't mean that we can use it for a 2% raise, but we have that block of money to decide how we're going to distribute for salaries. And I'm going to make a motion that we accept Becky's offer of transferring the amount for 2%, but not necessarily just money to be used for raises, whether it's a bonus or if we figure out some kind of percent.
I think we're out of order on that, Ann. I was talking, I'm going to let.
Why?
You have a main motion on the floor already to accept Becky's general county clerk budget. So
Well, I'm going to, just to go into, was there a motion and a second?
I thought so.
No, I didn't make a
Not a
motion.
second, Karen? Not a motion?
I didn't
No,
get
there's
one.
not a motion.
I was kind of interrupted in the middle of him making the motion. Tom was going to make the motion.
Well, the judge asked, does anybody make a motion to accept this? And I said, so moved. I didn't hear whether somebody said second or
I
not.
thought I heard a motion. That's why.
No, well, what is your motion? Just to accept the money for salaries?
To accept this budget right here.
No, without the salaries, just
But-
Oh, okay, but this is.
hang on just a moment. Okay, Zaga.
Thank you, Judge. But was there a second?
Did y'all have a second?
No, ma'am.
No, I mean. Well,
I didn't.
five people making a main motion isn't a second. I mean, it's, yes. So, it is my opinion then, without a second, there is not a proper motion on the floor. However, still going back to the parliamentary part of this, seems to me what's before you is Becky's, I'm sorry, County Clerk Llewellyn's main budget. So this is certainly incidental to that, Justice Harbison, but seems to me like you have to do something with her main budget first, regardless.
Well, I'm going to second Tom's motion to approve her main budget.
Can that be done this way?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Well, now I've got one, okay, hang on just a minute. J.P. Ecke?
Thank you, Madam Judge. Ms. Llewellyn, thank you for your generous offer to the general fund. I do want us to visit and consider bonuses or 2% or whatever that's going to be. Because when I look at IT's salaries, they are way above everybody else's department. And if it's a strict 2%, they get a huge increase where the others don't. And I believe you need to look at saying if you're going to make $50,000 to $60,000, if you're making below $50,000, and if you're making under 26 and a full-time or whatever, we need to look at those ranges first before we consider giving a county-wide employee raise or bonus. The discrepancy is just too large for me to even consider until we narrow the gap and tighten the parameters of what we really want to do with this. Because it seems like a few are really going to benefit and the others aren't.
I'm going to
Thank
call
you,
the
Madam.
question.
It's not for all employees, is it?
Yes.
All employees?
Yes. Not the 2%.
Justice Harbison needs to get the floor from you before she can make that motion. Is there?
I've got one other person I need to recognize before we can move forward. J.P. Lundstrom.
I just want to make a comment before we vote on this. I see these as two totally separate
Yeah,
issues.
they are.
The budget is the budget. The automation fund is the automation fund.
Right.
They should be handled separately to begin with. Plus, when we consider the automation fund, we have to consider what the retirement cost and matching Social Security and
That's
everything
all
else
in
is.
here.
Okay, but I'm, just at 2%, I'm like J.P. Ecke on that. We've done that when we give a 5% raise, one of our employees got a $4,000 a year raise while other employees got a 50-cent an hour raise. That's a major problem for me when we're dealing with these people at the bottom of the totem pole. I go through this every year. But with our JSAT program. Doesn't seem to be anything we can do about it. But with a bonus, it seems to me like we could give everybody the same bonus, period. $500, $300, whatever it is, they all get it. And that would include all the extra expenses as well, the benefits package. So I just want everybody to consider that before we vote. But what we're voting on now is just this budget, and she's done an excellent job of keeping the cost per budget down. So I'm moving that we pass it.
We have a motion, we have a second. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do a roll call. Carly, would you call the roll, please?
Joe Maxwell?
Yes.
Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson? Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman?
Yes.
Rick Cochran? Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke?
Yes.
Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd?
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
Yes.
Sue Madison?
Yes.
Okay. So now your regular budget, your first on the agenda, is now cleared on this one, Becky. So now yes, J.P. Harbison?
That was on. Okay, I'm going to make a motion that we accept Becky Llewellyn's offer of $563,808 to be distributed in some way later for salaries. It could be as a bonus. It can be
How about just to be employees instead of salaries?
employees. That's what I said.
Salaries, and you're considering
No,
okay.
it has to, you can't give, and I know some of the ones at the top, but they deserve to have a little bit. Now, they don't need to have all the cake. I can agree with that. But my motion is to accept this money for salaries, to be determined later how it's going to be distributed as a bonus or whatever. Thank you.
Attorney Zagat?
Well,
Can you?
Hang on just a minute.
No, it's perfectly fine for Butch to second. I would suggest, Justice Harbison, that maybe the word you want to use instead of salary is compensation, because that would include folks who are not on salaries. In other words, full-time people on wages, on hourly compensation.
Okay, compensation. Put the word compensation in instead of salary.
Mr. Justice Pond, is that
Did you do a second on that?
acceptable to you on the second? Thank you.
Okay. J.P. Madison?
Thank you, Judge. I think at this point, I'm going to have to vote against this because I just don't feel like I know enough. This was put to us for the first time tonight. I don't really have a time to think about sort of the overall impact on the budget. We weren't talking about raises until another time.
Sure.
And so it's not that I'm rejecting your generous gift of fee money, but I just think I need to process this a little bit better until I can kind of have my questions answered on what we're doing in terms of compensation and whether this is the right thing to do. Because I don't want to take it and then maybe have to give it back if we figure out another way to pay for it or something. I'd like to just know it's in the realm of possibilities for when we discuss compensation for our employees. And so I'm going to vote tonight no, just because it's just too new of an idea, I think, to push it through tonight. So thank you.
J.P. Maxwell?
Thank you, Judge. I don't know if this would be a friendly amendment or whatever, but maybe it would be, there'd be some wisdom in doing this in two different pieces while the court clerk is here, the county clerk is here, and we could, if she's amenable, as she's mentioned, to bringing those monies into the general fund, and then at a separate discussion, when we are discussing raises and compensation, then decide what the wisest way to handle that is. But I think that would have to be an amendment to your motion of it being tied together with the money coming in and being earmarked for compensation. Thank you, Judge.
Bowman? J.P. Bowman?
Thank you, Judge. I think it's short-sighted of us to think about zeroing out Becky's automation fund. I would like to have us reconsider leaving enough money in there. I think she said you had $120,000 or $150,000 expenses a couple of years ago.
Yes.
But I would like to go ahead and not to zero out her automation fund, because we know that she may need that in the future, that we unforeseen issues coming up. So I think at this point, I'd far prefer to see us go ahead and leave her with an amount like that in the budget to take care of those issues, and then deal with the personnel compensation at a time that's more appropriate than trying to deal with it tonight.
I believe, and maybe I'm wrong, please correct me if I am, with Ann's figures that she quoted, there was going to be over $300,000 still left in.
Oh, okay.
What is it, Sharon?
Oh, I misunderstood. I thought we were going to
Okay,
zero it out.
I think she's going to
Okay.
have, and like I say,
Okay.
I thought I understood that
I'm sorry.
330-something thousand.
I
Thank you, J.P.
misunderstood. Thank
Bowman.
you. All right, great.
J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Madam Judge. I understood our county clerk, Ms. Llewellyn, to say that she was willing to give this money to the general fund without it being earmarked. She should scream
She
now
said,
if
I would
that's...
prefer
Okay.
it be
Just
for-
yes or no. But at any
We
rate,
can discuss it.
I am very opposed to us earmarking it at this point. We are not finished going through all the budgets in the county yet. We have gone a good piece, but we haven't sat down to match up what we've appropriated with what we actually have to spend yet. And I will not favor committing us at this point to slice out $563,000 out of whatever the totals may be at the end to earmark them for salaries. Until we know the entire county budget picture and everything looks good and balanced, I don't think we can start giving bonuses or salary increases. I will say that when the time comes, I certainly do favor J.P. Dennis's approach, but I think we're not ready for this at this point because we don't have the full picture. Thank you, Judge.
J.P. Bowman.
Thank you, Judge. You know, guys, I think that we need to recognize that Becky has gone above and beyond here to cooperate and help us out with the budget issues. And Kyle Sylvester did the same thing with the animal shelter deal. And guys, I think we ought to applaud this kind of cooperation from our elected officials here. And I want to say thank you to Becky and Kyle both, because, you know, I don't always agree with the choices made, but it does demonstrate a generous and open nature to try to cooperate. And we know we're working through some tough times right now. And so I'd like to say thank you, Becky, and thank you, Kyle, for your intentions in trying to help us out with this issue. Thank you.
J.P. Ecke.
Thank you, Madam Judge. I agree with J.P. Maxwell and Bowman on their ideas. You're willing to give this amount of money back to the county employees who you work with day in and day out, and you see that need. And if this is cash in the bank for them, then I feel that this is money we have to work with when that time comes. And to say, no, not right now, is the budget, and this is something separate, in my opinion. And I love interdependent communities. I really do, because that makes a strong community. And our county employees work hard for us. We don't recognize it all the time, or do we value it all the time? And this is our opportunity as a court to value it. So I agree with J.P. Maxwell that we should have this friendly amendment to that and go forward and letting them know that they will be taken care of.
We
Thank
have a
you.
motion on the floor. We also have a second. What would you?
We have an amendment.
I didn't hear that offered in the form of a motion, but for it to be friendly, the main mover must accept it as friendly.
And I'm not sure what the motion.
Hang on just a minute. Cheryl.
I just would like to remind you that not all salaries are in county general. So as you're talking about asking her to put money in the county general reserves, not all salaries are in county general. There's some really large ones in some other funds.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Okay. What I understand there to be now is a motion that I read as Justice Harbis's motion to accept $563,808.84 to be distributed at some later point to be determined by the court in employee compensation, seconded by Justice Pond. There was discussion from Justice Maxwell about a potential to just bring it into general fund. I did not hear that made in the form of a motion. even if it is, it would have to be, as a friendly, it would have to be accepted by Justice Harbison as a friendly amendment.
Well, I think
Turn your mic on.
just answered that question, that we really can't, for salaries, move it into general and call it salaries, because not everything comes out of general for salaries. I think if we would just accept her generous offer and earmark this money for salaries to be determined later, and that's basically what my motion is. So I'm not going to accept the amendment because it's going into the general fund. I don't understand your amendment to my motion. Could you explain that?
Hang on just a minute.
Who has the floor?
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
Zaga, I'm going to.
No, Judge, you can obviously recognize another JP. I would just throw this word of caution out to the court while you're thinking about this. If this motion fails tonight, and based on my hearing, I'm not sure whether it would pass or not, and I'm talking about Justice Harbison's motion, somebody who voted against it would have to bring it back later.
Point of order, that's only if it's a motion to reconsider at the same sitting. You can bring it up in another forum at a later meeting. It's called something else like review, or it's another motion. When we bring it back up at a later date, I can't remember. I'll figure out what it is and tell you. But I don't think it rules us out from considering it again. I'll see if I can find it for you.
Okay.
I'm just trying to help you out.
No, that's fine. I'm concerned that you don't pass it tonight. I guess what I'm trying to suggest to y'all is maybe the appropriate thing to do with this particular motion is to table it. But that's up to y'all.
I agree. Okay, I think JP Maxwell.
Thank you, Judge. Let me just clarify what I think I see the potential issue is, and perhaps the solution for that is, I think this is going to get bogged down if it's a two-step process. One, it's taking the funds that she's generously offering and then automatically earmarking them as the second half for salaries and compensation. My suggestion, and I can offer it in the form of an amendment, if you would accept it, would be to make that just, the motion just be to accept those funds from the clerk tonight, and then at a separate time, we can discuss how best to implement what we want to do with those, and, you know, all the things that J.P. Lundstrom's mentioned about matching funds, et cetera, all that, the details that are going to get really, really confusing in this. My fear is that this is going to fail with it being tied to salaries and compensation. So to keep it alive and to do what I think we productive with the court clerk here tonight, to just bring those funds into general reserve and then handle that at a separate option. So I will offer that up as an amendment to your motion to separate those out.
Turn your mic on.
I'm not going to accept that as a friendly amendment because it could go into the general fund and it could be voted to be used for anything later. And I think, you know, Becky is following like former people in the county when they've had little extra money here and there, have given it for salaries. And I think that's very generous, but I think we're asking too much just for her to blanket put the money into general and we decide what's going to happen to that money. I want this money earmarked for some kind of compensation. Now, if it doesn't pass, then it doesn't pass. I mean, we can decide how it's going to be used in compensation later. But, you know, we either accept her offer or we don't accept her offer, as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
JP Osiri.
Thank you. It's very, very kind of you to do this. And what I'm suggesting is that we table this tonight and that we bring it up later once we know where all the numbers are. And we can ask her to come back and we can have numbers that are realistic, and we can certainly take her lead in trying to do something for the employees of the county with this money. And so that's my suggestion when we're all prepared. We've had a chance to look at it, and we certainly do want to accept it, and we want to accept it and do it as well as we can. So thank you very much. Thank you, Judge.
Okay, now he has made a motion to table. Does that not take precedence?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so
And
we
it
have.
is- It's not debatable. The motion to table is not debatable.
So we have, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to table the issue now and bring it back at a later date. Carly, would you call the roll, please?
Joe Maxwell,
Yes.
Gary McHenry,
Yes.
Joe Patterson, Butch Pond,
Yes.
Bill Ussery, Daniel Balls,
Yes.
Harvey Bowman,
Yes.
Rick Cochran, Robert Dennis,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke, Ann Harbison, Sharon Lloyd, Tom Lundstrom,
Yes.
Eva Madison, Sue Madison.
Okay, this has been tabled. We're going to move on to the next business. Becky, that's going to be your next budget. It's going to be your county clerk costs. So you're welcome to proceed, and we can open up the floor for questions, or unless you've got comments you want to make. You ready for that questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's don't make it so hard on her this time. And by the way, before we start, thank you very much. You've been very kind. Okay, we're ready to open up the floor. No questions?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. That was an easy one. Let's get to your next one. County Clerk Operating.
Small one. This is just $2 from every marriage license that we issue goes into this one.
Okay. Any questions for Becky? I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Becky. Next thing we have on the agenda is our election commissioners, and why don't both of you come up if you want to and pull up an extra chair? We need to see you up here also. Just pull up a chair there with Jennifer. Y'all have comments you'd like to make? Are you ready for questions?
I think we're ready for questions.
Okay. They think they've already asked all of them.
I thought we got the hard part out of the way earlier.
Any questions for the Election Commission? Anyone have a motion to approve the budget as is? I have a second. Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay.
Yeah, she said the same sign, so it's the same time.
Huh?
Justice Dennis is calling division, Judge. You need a roll call.
Okay. Okay. Carly, would you call the roll, please? I'm sorry.
That's all right, Judge. I think there was just some confusion.
Okay, Carly, would you call the roll to approve this budget as is?
Joe Maxwell,
No.
Gary McHenry,
Yes.
Joe Patterson, Butch Pond,
Yes.
Bill Ussery, Daniel Balls,
Yes.
Harvey Bowman,
Yes.
Rick Cochran, Robert Dennis,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke, Ann Harbison, Sharon Lloyd, Tom Lundstrom,
No.
Eva Madison, Sue Madison.
9-4, Judge.
Okay, it passed.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much. Appreciate you. Next thing we have is our assessor. You should be getting used to
Butch,
this.
can you pass Joe's, did you get Bill a book there? Can you pass that over since Joe's not here? I created a booklet for everybody detailing everything with the budget for the assessor's budget this year. My thought was I could walk through it really fast, and then if you have any questions. Is that good? Okay.
Is that what you want him to do? Okay, proceed.
All right. Well, first I want to start off, remind everybody that, the great thing about the assessor's office concerning you guys is we're a commission-based office. So our entire budget affects the county general, which we're very concerned about. And just like you, I want to see these reserves, back going in a positive motion. We only affect the county general by 9%, 8 to 9%. So whatever my budget is, for every $100 it costs that the assessor's office spends, it costs the county $8 to $9. So just let that out there. I want to start off some really good news. We just are wrapping up our reappraisal contract. This is a 5-year contract, and so on this first page, as you open it up, you can see 2010 we had 93,000 parcels. And with that previous contract, we were paying $11.50 per parcel. I was able to renegotiate our contract for 2016. The county has grown in parcels by close to 1,400 parcels from 2010 to 2016, or 2015. We negotiated that to $10.75 per parcel. So there's roughly the year percentage over 5 years. So our 2010 contract was $5,365,600. This one is $5,090,555. Today, when I'd been working, to me that wasn't good enough. I challenged our contractor to make that 5 a 4. And so we had, part of our contract was to have pictures of improved parcels. So if a parcel had a building on it, we would have a picture in our CAMA system. We have pictometry, and where we do flyovers every year of the county. And so with that pictometry, they have orthos, which is straight down, and then we have obliques, which shoot from the sides. So it was really kind of fluff and overkill to have those pictures in our CAMA database. And so taking that out saved us an additional $100,000. So we added an addendum today to drop that price even lower from $5,090,000 to, if you look at the bottom, at the very bottom where it's kind of in bold, we were at $590,000. We minused it $100,000. So now our new contract for 5 years is $4,990,555. Divided that, it's under $1 million, just under $1 million a year, $83,000 a month, making a total of $10.54 per parcel. So the total savings from the 2010 to the 2016 contract is $375,000. So that's good news. So we were able to save that with just this contract renegotiation. So I wanted to share that with you. Also wanted to share, as you turn to the next page, this is the budget from 2012, so you can kind of compare to where we are at 15 and what we're looking at for 2016. I had come before you for a capital improvement asking for 2 deputy assessors, and in that, one of those was we had a growth where we just needed it because with personal property, we're dealing with more and more personal property as the population has increased over the years. And then the additional deputy assessor, and again, these are entry-level, $24,000, $25,000 a year people. We are opening the new office at the revenue office on Razorback Road. I had come to you and told you I had a lady who was retiring at the end of 2016, and I just needed this extra person for 1 year, and we would absorb that. The lady came to me last week, and she goes, I need to work a couple more years. And so she did not know kind of what my plan was. So I just wanted to come before you and let you know, so I have a trust with you. I don't want to break that trust, and I want to let you know she's planning on staying a couple more years. So that kind of threw a monkey wrench into what I had planned with absorbing that. So what I would like to do is I would like to keep that position available, not necessarily use it, and see if we can't get by with just the one, but if I needed to have the option to add the second person, but I'll leave that up to the court, and I completely understand if you say we need to readjust that. I just wanted to let you know what had happened because she is a very valuable worker. She would have been hard to replace, but if she needs, her plan is she had changed her mind and her plan was to stay a couple more years. I wanted to let you know that. As we go through here, so that's on the salary part. As you go down, of course, we cut out $100 for medication and drugs. We cut $1,000 out of food that we're no longer doing, which actually was coffee and water is what we were providing. I am looking at adding under clothing and uniforms $1,500, which we had $500 for this budget, so increasing that to $1,500 to a total of $2,000. And I looked back at the previous years, and we averaged $1,500 to $1,800 a year. Up till 2011, we had 18, and that's what the little note next to that. In 2011, we spent $1,883, and we have 33 employees. And this is to provide basic shirts like this. Or some have sweaters that they wear that have the county emblem and say assessor on it. So when a person comes to the counter, we're able to handle that. As you look at the previous years, there was 0 in 12, 13, 14, and then in 15 we had. So we haven't purchased anything in a number of years, and we have several people we've never provided them with a uniform. And the ones that people do have, they've been wearing the same thing for 4 years now. It's starting to get worn. So I felt it was needed that we need to help get our employees uniforms. So that's the reason for the increase there. Fuel and oil and stuff for cars, we're dropping that from $10,000 to $8,000 for 2016. Lower fuel prices, and the main reason too is that the legislature will not be in session in 2016. And when they are in session, even in my first year, I was making several trips down to Little Rock, protecting the interest of the laws that were coming into play that would affect the assessor's office and affect the county and the revenue stream that comes into it. We had a big battle with billboards that took place that required the assessors to come and shout and scream saying, you're going to hurt the county. And so we have to go down and fight those issues. I also accepted a position on the legislative committee for the counties. And so I'm one of 3 people representing the assessor's office in the state of Arkansas. And so we'll be finding out about any legislature, any laws that are going to take place that might affect the assessor's office, which in turn affects the revenue stream for the county. So there won't be that many trips to Little Rock in 2016, but I do anticipate if the gas goes up and with the legislature meeting in 2017 that number will change, probably jump back up to 10,000. But it is a savings that we could look at for this year. I don't anticipate to go over 8,000 in 2016. 500 tires. I looked at our vehicles. We have 2 that are probably going to need tires in 2016, but that's it. Here, computer IT equipment. A big increase of $15,000. And if you look at 2013, you'll see that there was $22,000 spent. And so I want to go into the details on this with the technology and explain the increase on that. If you turn to save that page, but if you turn to the page behind that, there's a text summary. If we look, here's the big picture on it. We have 4 computers that are outdated. They're going to be 6 years old or older that we need to update and replace. $1,500 each on that, $6,000. We have the new setup with 2 full installations at the Revenue Office on Razorback Road. That is $6,640 extra. And then this is something that's desperately been needed, and we do have an issue in our personal property, as I was made aware of, that hasn't been taken care of. We need to purchase, and I could down that a little bit to 10 and we could do it again next year in 7, but we really need it, each of our personal property. When people come in and go to our personal property and you bought a vehicle, they look and they type in that VIN number. They don't always get it right. There's 19 numbers and letters in there, and so some get transposed or you miss something. That can create an error in your file for the personal property that you own because we have the wrong VIN number in there. And this happens on a daily basis. We try, and if we had a scanner, what we would do is when they come, we would scan it. That attaches into their file, their person. And so we have a copy. And so if they do type it in wrong, we can go back later and go, oh, that's why it showed up the wrong year or the wrong model, or it didn't show up the right thing because we put it in wrong. We would have a scanned copy of that attached to that file, and we could go back and make those corrections. But without having scanners at each one of these places where people come in and assess every day, every year, year round, we don't have that. And so what this would do is it would it would close the cracks where we have these mistakes after mistakes after mistakes, and we would get everybody properly assessed, and we'd have the right vehicles on file in our CAMA system. So that's what the scanners are for. I want to do the PC replacements. We have, 37 of them. There was a bunch of them. I think there were 13 of them purchased in 2013. I would like to kind of space that out so we're buying about 5 or 6 a year instead of 13 one year, then we wait a couple years. That way we don't have to take such a big hit, every so often, and kind of space that out and just be a little wiser with that. So the total that I'm looking at is $24,500, which is, I've got a budget for $25,000 for that year. Now, the page behind it is the details. Here's every computer we have. The ones, if you go to the next page, the ones highlighted in blue are the older models that were purchased either in 2011 or 2010 or even 2000. I'm not sure when they were purchased. We don't have a purchase date on it because the person, my new chief deputy, she didn't start till 2011. So this is her spreadsheet that we use to keep up with our computers. But it tells who has what computer, who's assigned to, but those 4 highlighted are the ones that we would need to replace for next year. If you turn to the next page, this is the order form. This was actually created by the IT department for the equipment needed to open up the new office on Razorback Road. I went back and I took a few bells and whistles off of there. The ones that are highlighted in yellow, we don't necessarily need that. His total was $9,600. We take a few of those bells and whistles at it. We don't need a camera. We don't need those scanners, and we don't need wireless headsets. So we take that out. That gives us a total of $6,600 after taxes. So it saves the county about $3,000 there. So I'm trying to trim away as much as I can on this stuff. So that's what we'll be purchasing to open up that new office. So if we go back, there's the $15,000 increase for the budget because we're going to need about $25,000 to get us where we need to go there. Again, I know that to me that's a lot of money. I know for the county general, but you look at that, it's 9% of that. So we're taking $300 down off of building materials and supplies. Then we go to the line item 3009, other professional services. We are currently, for 2015, we were at $7,000. I had to bump that to $9,000. And if you look at that, that is, if you go a few pages back again, our cabinets that have to be built and installed at Razorback Road to open the new office. The collector and the assessor together, the cost is almost just shy of $18,000. So there's a $9,000 increase for my half of the cabinets. The collector will be paying the other half of that. We had to split the costs on that. So if you take the cabinets away, we're actually at $6,000, which is $1,000 under for this year. But because of the cabinets in the new office, that was an additional cost that we see coming that we're going to need. Phone up $100, that's no big deal. 500 travel fees, reduce that 500. 1,500 increase on our airfare. We have 2 conferences that are extremely important for us to attend. One is a GIS CAMA conference. It's a worldwide conference. We went to it this year. It was in Oklahoma City, so we were able to drive. This next year, it's in Savannah, Georgia, so we're going to have to fly. People in my GIS department, they go there. This is where we learn how to do what we do and make what we do as far as mapping the county more efficient and more accurate. So that'll take place. And I've got a detailed spreadsheet on all of this. I wanted to increase our marketing with the marketing of the new office. I feel that we have some really good news for the county to share about opening this new office, and I think by and large it's good to get some good news out about some of the things that we're doing in the county. And so I wanted to increase that to market the office that we're going to be opening on Razorback. See, $1,000 increase on subscription. We spent $5,900 this year, and I had to move $1,000 over to handle subscriptions to different. It's actually most of it's the international IAAO, which is International Association of Assessing Officers. They kind of write all the regulations that we do. We have to subscribe to that to be a part of the organization. $10,500 increase on meals and lodging. This is for conferences and dues and memberships for education. If you look to this back page, right here in your pamphlet, is our education. I have broken down every conference, what the registration fee is, what we anticipate the room, food, airfare if that's needed, and who is going to each of these. In the assessor's office, it's very important that our people are licensed and certified in the field that they do. And in order to do that, and I'm finding this out as I'm going through this process, as I'm getting ready to take some classes, and I've been taking classes all year, to have these certifications. So when people come in and they want you to give the legal description for their property, that we know how to find it, map it, and help title companies do so that what we do is accurate and precise. And so these people need to go through this training in these classes. This is all done through the IAAO. And this is an international, it's a worldwide program. In order to do that, we have to have, like teachers, once you've been certified and you get in your designation, you want to become a level 4 designated assessor. And that means you know what you're talking about and you know what you're doing. You've been through the classes and you've taken the tests and you've passed the test. Every test you have to have a 70 or higher or you fail. This is the first class I took. This is the 101 class. So this is my study booklet, and 4 days of classes from 8 o'clock until 4:30 p.m. And then you go home, you go to your hotel room, and you study from about 8 until midnight. And then you do that for 4 days, and then on Friday you take your test. So basically it is a semester of college crammed into 4 days with a test on Friday. I took this, 51% of our class, we had 44 students in that class, 51% failed. So it's not easy stuff. So just to say that, you have to have continuing education hours. So in this education chart here, we keep track of the people who have education. And now, like William Stevenson, he's been at this 20 years. He's way beyond a level 4, and he's got all these other initials behind the stuff that he does. My education requirements are 30 hours. That's continuing education I have to do over a 3-year period. Williams are 75. So he's way up there. But we have to keep track of these and keep these people certified so they don't have to go back, and so they don't lose their certification and then have to go through and start all over again. This is a 2-year process to get your level 4. And we want them to keep that so they keep their designation. So the education is really a big deal in the assessor's office to keep these people educated and certified. If you look at the education, we kind of really got our cupboards cleaned by the previous assessor. I mean, that's just the easiest way to say it. He left $5,000 in there. In the previous years, you've got $15,000, $16,000, $17,000, $11,000, $12,000, and then all of a sudden, 2015, I'm stuck with $5,000. So there were some stuff that we didn't get to attend, and we got some catching up to do on our hours. And so that's the reason the increase on that. So. That's okay. So any questions you have that I've kind of walked through everything, I'll be glad to. Thank you guys for listening to that. And
I didn't know I did, but I move that we accept the Washington County 2016 assessor's budget as presented.
I have a motion and a second. Now, there are a couple I'm going to read the rest. J.B. Bowman.
Thank you, Judge. Russell, I really appreciate the in-depth review of what's going on here. I guess one thing jumped out at me about the scanner, will that increase the speed of being able to process those type activities?
What it's going to do is it's going to add an added measure of we have correct information in our system. Because right now we do not. We process, hundreds of people every day, and we've got 17 people working on that. And somewhere somebody's going to hit a wrong digit when you're typing in a 19-digit VIN number. And
Well,
so it's going to increase our accuracy, which, if we're assessing the wrong car, that's putting a value to it, and they're paying taxes on that. So they're either paying more or not enough because we're hitting the wrong digit. And we actually have a person that goes through and makes sure that they audit stuff, but without that being scanned in and being able to check the VIN number, we can't make it's a guessing game. Pick your number out of 19 digits.
Well, I think
if you can get that right, I'll take you for the Powerball then.
I think it's terrific to go ahead and look at the improvement in accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody having to sit there and type in that many numbers, I think it increases the amount of time required to do that, to do every process. And hopefully, I'd hope that in the future it would help reduce the number of people you have to have, or.
I don't know. I don't think it would do that because we still have. We still have to manage. It's a mathematical thing. A person can only handle so many files.
Okay.
And it's got to be done.
Well, it requires a great deal of time to go back and find and correct those mistakes too, doesn't it?
Yes. It will help. It will help us correct those mistakes faster, and it will make us more accurate. And I'm very concerned about. I do want to increase our efficiency, and I definitely want to make sure that we are as accurate as we can be in the job that we do.
Thank you.
I want to commend you on your professionalism. I think you have really come in here and really tackled this job and done an excellent job. And it's also you're willing to go the extra step to get the education and everything you need. And I just think your professionalism needs to be recognized.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to ask you a question I'm sorry. On, like, you getting your money reimbursed from the schools, when does that money come to you from the schools? I'm asking because I've talked to the treasurer, but I don't know.
That would be a Bobby Hill question. I don't know. I don't know when the school does that. I don't know.
The settlement comes in every month, and we pull a portion of that out and leave it.
And so, and I'm educating myself here, I know. So you say every month, and then do you roll that into the assessor, collector, and treasurer's account?
At the end of the first of next year, we will pay for treasurer, collector, and assessor.
So actually then, what they live out of is the county general money until it rolls in?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. For some reason,
I didn't know that. Yeah.
So we all learned something. Yeah. Okay, we have a motion. Okay. Who had the hands up first here? Okay, J.P. Maxwell.
Quick. Thank you,
Okay.
Judge. I just want to very quickly say I appreciate the attention to detail, the way you manage your budget before you get here. That's very much appreciated. And just the cuts you've made and the way you've negotiated, I think that is that makes our job a whole lot easier. So from a selfish perspective, I just say thanks, and I think it helps the county taxpayers as well. And even things like I know that you have proactively changed your county car policy and all that. I just feel like you've made our job much simpler, and I want to say thanks for that. One quick question for clarification. Do the new car titles from Arkansas, do they have a barcode on the bottom?
I don't know.
Okay. I was just wondering if the simple question or the simple answer in between all this is if there was a scannable barcode where you didn't have to scan in the physical.
That would be great.
JPEG.
Yeah, I see what
and
you're
there was no
going
data
at.
entry at all, and it was removed all source of errors. So just an observation.
That would be a great idea, and that would be something the state would do, I would think. But
I was thinking they now had barcodes on them.
I'll have to check into that.
That might be scannable.
That would
but
be great.
I could be correct in that. Thank you, Judge.
That would definitely increase efficiency.
Thank you, Judge. I wanted to ask, the 2 scanners that you removed from the IT estimate, I sort of think scanners are almost a necessary part of office equipment these days, and it cuts down on paper, and especially with this being a remote office. Is it the right, do I know what kind of scanner you're talking about?
Well, I would be replacing it with the ones that we're looking at $700 apiece. The
Oh, so
one that he
you're
had was a
using them.
9.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was a little worried about them not having a scanner.
No. Well, currently they don't. Currently we don't in any of them. That's why we need. That's
Okay.
why we need
So
them.
you are going to give them scanners.
Yes.
You're
Oh,
just
yeah,
making,
yeah,
using
yeah.
more.
But the
less
ones I'm
expensive
looking at
ones.
are
Okay. Okay.
$250
I'm
cheaper.
good. I just wanted to make sure that they weren't going to be without them. So that's all I had. I appreciate all the information very much.
J.P. McKinley.
Thank you, Judge. Just a quick question about the scanners. Are these multifunction printer, copier, and scanner?
No,
or
this
just
scanner is this is a specialized scanner that will go into our software system. So it is something that actually our software provider recommended.
Okay.
And we can actually buy it through them, so we know it'll work with our CAMA system, and it'll automatically go to that particular file. But now we can use it to scan anything, but it will be plugged into each computer so that it will go directly into that record in that CAMA file and will cooperate with our software.
Okay. And perhaps this isn't a question for you, but is this type of equipment currently in use anywhere in the county that you're talking
Benton
about?
County.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Benton County utilizes it.
Okay. But none in our county?
Not in Washington. We don't do it.
All right. Thank you.
Or actually, I'm sorry, we have one that we use, and it's in our business personal. So when businesses come in, we can scan, and we attach it to their systems. But as far as someone coming up to renew their tags or their boat or anything like that, we do not have.
Okay. Thank you, Judge.
Have a motion on the floor, have a second to accept this budget. Any other discussion? Carly, would you call the roll?
Joe Maxwell. Gary McHenry. Joe Patterson. Rich Vaughn. Bill Ussery. Daniel Balls. Harvey Bowman. Rick Cochran. Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Eki. Ann Harbison. Sharon Lloyd. Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison. Sue Madison.
Okay, you got one done.
Okay.
Now let's. Now are you going to?
Oh, no, I'm not. I still got, yeah. The other one, equalization board. Yeah, the equalization board. Let me grab that. I don't think I changed anything, really.
Okay, let's open the floor for questions in for you. Any questions for the equalization board? Do I have a motion to accept his? Yes, J.P. Ussery.
It's just I noticed that on other professional services, that went up substantially.
Thank you. Yep. Let's see here. Boom, boom. Professionals. Yep. Hold on there. Let me look at that. Okay, let me get the right paper there. That the professional services is our pictometry. That is a 6-year contract, or it's our imagery. It's our county imagery. That is a 6-year contract. This first year, because we're starting our reappraisal, we are going with a 6-inch, which means everything the pixelation will be down. Really, it'll be very tight. It's important to do that the first year of the reappraisal and then the year before the final reappraisal. The in-between years will be substantially less. And with that, it's also a cooperative program, so the cities are also involved on this. So we pay it, but then everybody else pitches in. And one of the things that the counties are doing, which is increasing it by 30,000, is the cities. The way that it works with the imagery is we work with Ozark Regional, Northwest Arkansas Regional Planning. And so everybody pitches in on the imagery because everybody in the county utilizes it. All the cities do, and even different organizations and government entities. So everybody pitches in on it. Now, we do pay the lion's share of it because we utilize it the most, but everybody pitches in. So it won't be that won't be the full bill that the county pays. We will be reimbursed on part of that. And I know 30,000 of it will be something that we added, which bumped it up, is the footprints. And what that is they will go in and put a footprint around each building on each parcel. Each building that is flown over in the county will have a digital footprint put around it. And I don't know what the cities wanted it. And I said, well, if you want to pay it, then you can pay it. But it comes to us first, and then they will reimburse us for that. And I know the total price for that's $30,000. And then what we do is there's a computer program that you use. It's a change finder, and then what they'll do is you can do footprints again later on, and then it's almost like a transparency, and you can tell if somebody added on, if they added on to their house, if they added a deck, or if they whatever change finding that they did. And so you typically want to do that about once every 3 years, and then you can kind of lay that picture over the other one and go, oh, wait a minute, there's an addition over here. Make sure that we got that assessed properly, or make sure that they got a building permit, so that's what that is. But it is a cooperative.
Okay, and that leads me to the next question. Then if we get part of this money back, where does that appear in our budget?
That will go back. It'll be distributed back into that budget. So it'll, and since we're commission-based, 9% of that will go back into the county, and then the rest will go to the schools and whatnot. So it'll be dispersed the way that we have our revenue generated in.
So how will we see that as income, I guess, is my question. Where will this show up as we're spending? So I realize it goes into the general, and maybe Bobby would know. But how do we see that on our budget? I mean, we see you're spending this much, and you're saying we're getting part of that money back.
Yeah, we'll receive payments. We'll receive payments from Springdale, Fayetteville, West Fork, Farmington, Elkins, Prairie Grove, people that are in the cooperative, and they commit to so much money every year to help pay for this. They pay it to us, and then we turn it into the treasurer, and then he funnels it back from where it came.
But this amount of money, it doesn't reflect what we're actually, at the end of the day, it's not what we're actually going to spend. We're only going to spend a small portion of this, from what you're saying.
Yeah, we'll spend, our percentage is anywhere from 30 to 50% of it.
Okay, so where does the rest of that show up? The rest of that money show up?
We pay it out first.
Right.
Okay. Then they will pay it back to us, and we turn that into the treasurer, and then it goes. I don't know where it goes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. We didn't hear what it was said.
When we receive reimbursement, where does it go again? We didn't hear it on this side of the room.
It'll be on page 45 or 46. It's county. Goes into county general, and it's part of the revenue projections.
Thank you.
Okay, now, did I get a motion for this budget? Okay, and a second? Okay. Carly, let's just do all in favor of this budget, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, let's move on to your next one there.
Okay, Amendment 79. This is a fund that is really, it's from the state, that the state reimburses it into a special account. It's called Amendment 79 Fund. Roughly, on average, it's about a $20,000 a year reimbursement that we get from the state. This money has some restrictions that are used on it. It has to be used only in specific ways, which is funding the office of Amendment 79, which is made up of a lady named Raina, Jessica, William, and myself. So we're kind of all a part of that. And so it's money that's reimbursed by the state, and we have to spend it for that. I tend to use it to help pay for the education and training. So we're going to use it for Jessica for conferences that she needs to attend, or William. And so that really kind of helps us with the general fund. So that's where I kind of utilize that. And we also use it in some of our postage. It really saved us this year on our postage because we were again behind. We had some postage that was should have been in 2014, and it hit us in 2015. So that really helped us out there. I also use it to upgrade the computer. So it's kind of like Jessica will get a new computer each year, and then we kind of trickle that down into the other departments. So again, that's helping the county general out a little bit because that's one less computer we have to buy with the other money that we can use with this. So I'm trying to spread that out to keep it upboard and honest. It all goes to the people that work managing the Amendment 79, but we kind of utilize that the best we can.
Yes, J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Madam Judge. Help me keep all the amendments straight. What does Amendment 79 do?
Amendment 79, it's the homestead exemption. It's where people get the $350 credit. It's where if you are disabled or 65 or older, that your values are frozen, your tax is frozen on that.
Okay, and how does money flow into that fund?
I don't know. That was passed before I was involved in it. From what I understand, there was there was I may be completely politically incorrect on this, but there was a big uprising of the people and property taxes. They wanted to abolish property taxes altogether. So there was a compromise, and that's where the $350 tax
I
credit.
know what that's about. I'm just trying to figure out how you end up with money because of Amendment 79.
I don't. It's reimbursed by the state.
We do a report 3 times a year. We, in the assessor's office, collector office, we track that, and 3 times a year, I issue a report down to Little Rock, and they reimburse us back monthly to the treasurer. So we track it up here, submit it to them in a report, and then they reimburse us back.
So the state is essentially paying a portion of some people's homestead exemption, but they don't pay it all. They're just reimbursing you for.
Yes, and then that money has to be used within keeping that office operating.
Okay, I guess in some ways that helps counties that would have a large number of retirees that would all have a homestead exemption, or not all of them, but okay. Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
Any other questions? Any other discussion? Do we have a motion for the for the Amendment 79 budget? And a second? I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Circuit Clerk, Mr. Kyle.
Good evening.
Do you have comments or do you want questions?
We can go ahead and go with questions.
Okay. Floor is open. Anybody? J.B. Harbison?
I have you're up $14,476 from last year. And if everything's correct that we have in front of us, I move approval of your budget.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I said $14,476.
I think it's 4,000. 4,000.
Is it 4?
That's a better thing.
Well, that's even better. I must have subtracted wrong. I had 893.
8 minus 8 is 0.
Well, 8 from 3. 8 from 9 is 1.
Okay. Let's go back. I have a motion. I have a second.
6 from
Any other
11,
discussion?
4 is 1, 5.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Pose same sign. You got more, don't you? Okay. The recorder's cost.
And I'll entertain questions on the recorder's cost.
He's open for questions. Any questions? Our first circuit clerk? I think they're all looking for their stuff, so hang on just a minute, Kyle.
Yes, ma'am.
J.P. Bowman.
Kyle, I see there's a pretty big increase in salaries for full-time. Can you catch us up on what's going on there?
You approved 3 full-time slots.
Okay.
Any raises?
That's not my call, that's yours.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? J.P. Madison?
Thank you, Madam Judge. Which one of these funds did the excess come from that went to the animal shelter?
Neither one.
None of the ones we're considering tonight? Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, those were commissions, all right. Thank you.
Judge, Justice Harbison.
J.P. Harbison?
I move approval of the county clerk's cost fund.
Circuit clerk.
Circuit clerk. I'm on the wrong one. Maybe I better look. Okay, circuit clerk.
Okay, I think, okay, now, I've got a motion and a second, but let's have discussion. J.P. Ecke?
Thank you, Madam Judge. Mr. Sylvester, when you generously offered the animal shelter money when needed to help, that, it came from your fund, correct? Which fund was it, if you can refresh my memory?
It came from a commissioner fee fund.
Commissioner fee fund.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there restrictions on how you use your commissioner fee fund?
No.
It can't go to support 3 staffers?
It can. The issue with that fund is it is all based on commission from foreclosure sales, and it's hard to forecast a certain amount of money. For that fund, it would be hard to forecast that X amount of dollars will come in during the year because it all relies on the real estate market at that point.
Certainly. Do you know off the top of your head exactly how much is in that fund at present? Or after so much, it rolls over into county general?
No, that's the recorder's cost fund.
It's recorder cost
That's the
fund.
one you're considering presently.
Okay. But that commission fee does not?
Correct.
How much is in that fund, do you know?
I believe after the money was transferred into the county general, there's about $12,000 left.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam
You
Judge.
have a comment?
Yes, Judge. Justice Harbison said circuit clerk's cost fund. I think to be completely accurate, we do need to call it the recorder's cost fund because Mr. Sylvester is the ex officio recorder.
The recorder's cost.
So, Justice Harbison, if it's okay with you, I'd like to suggest you to
Okay.
make that your motion. And
Recorder's
who seconded?
cost fund.
Mr. Dennis.
Okay, so we're straight. Any other questions? All in favor of passing this budget, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. And then your next one is transfer out recorder's costs fund. You're recognized. Ready?
Yes.
Have you guys found your place on this one? Do you know where you are in your book? That's on page 181.
I believe this is a projected rollover for 2016, and Treasurer Hill estimated it at $700,000 for 2016. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Any questions? Any discussion? J.P. Harbison.
I move that we approve the recorder's cost fund.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. I'm sorry?
It's transfers out.
How?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
what she said. That's no,
Inter-fund.
do we need to redo it?
I don't think you've approved the transfers out fund yet. So yes, I understand what Justice Harbison meant to do, but she said the budget you just approved a second ago.
Oh, okay, and so this is the transferred out to it.
Recorder's costs fund?
Recorder's
And
cost
Mr.
fund.
J.P. Dennis, okay, let's go ahead and vote it again. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I'd rather be safe. Okay, then the next one we're going to have is transfer out child support fund.
This is a fund. There's certain fees and things in the child support fund that goes to help pay for that particular position at the end of the year.
Okay. Any questions? Did you have your hand up?
Then I lift my finger.
Judge, Justice Maxwell.
J.P. Maxwell.
Thank you, Judge. I just have a quick clarification question. Why were there no expenses in 2014? Or no transfers out?
I don't know.
Fair enough. Anybody else know?
Those are items, I believe, that the treasurer calculates at the end of the year and transfers out.
So he's blaming it all on you, Bobby.
Again.
Okay.
Have you the other?
Where does the buck
It's like a
stop?
tennis match.
And it's not that big a deal. I'm just kind of curious as to what the process was there.
It goes back to general. The whole process of that is because that fund does not generate enough revenue to actually cover the child support coordinator position. So back before Mr. Sylvester was circuit clerk, we were actually doing court orders every payroll to cover that. And so I asked the previous circuit clerk if it would be okay if we actually moved the position to her county general budget, and then at the end of the year, we would transfer all that money. I would say in 2014 that money did not get transferred until after the end of the year. It doesn't generate a lot of money.
20,000 a year.
Thank you, Judge.
Any other discussion? Okay, do I have a motion to pass this?
I make a motion that we pass the inter-fund transfers. Child support.
Okay, transfer out child support fund is our motion, and our second is by who?
Justice Pond, I
Justice
thought.
Pond, okay. All in favor of passing this budget, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have is our collector.
Good afternoon.
How are you? Do you have any comments, or do you just want to start taking questions?
Well, yeah, I can make a few comments here.
Okay.
We did go ahead and eliminate our food fund, so there's a reduction in line 2005. And then we reduced several, and we've increased several. And when you add them all up, come up with a total, there's an increase over last year of $106,000. But keep in mind, the county's portion of that is $9,676. And we haven't increased our budget in some time. We're opening up the new office in the revenue office. We're hiring 2 employees. We added a little bit to our overtime, to our part-time. We've added several things that have been kind of getting away from us. We've moved some line items. Our postage, our publications are up, and so that's the beginning of this report. I might say we just pretty well have completed our collections for the year, and from this time at this time compared to last year, we're up $1,720,375. So it's good to see that we have collected, what we were looking for, and maybe even a little bit more. Your portion of that is only, what was it, 9.12%.
Congratulations.
Okay, questions?
That's good. J.P. Madison.
You had mentioned the increase in your overtime. I'm curious why you're using overtime and not the comp time option that governments have available, where we don't have to actually spend that money.
We request our employees to use as much comp time as they can, but when they do, then we have to use overtime. We have to fill certain positions in certain places, and we have to have so many people, live bodies, working all the time. So it's either one or the other.
So you do make use of comp time then?
And we encourage it, especially the girls that use all their sick leave. And annual leave, and sick leave.
Okay. I'm not sure if I have the updated budget if the numbers have changed, but I was curious about the special legal. It's the 3005 line item.
Yes. When I first took over this office, there was always $2,000 in there. And I ripped it out because you cut the budgets down to everything. And I put it back in there because it is something that I may need. And it's to protect the collector. It gives me legal advice outside the council of the county.
Now I'm really curious. I'm not sure I know what that could be.
Me either, but it's there to protect me.
So you've never used it before and you don't know what it's for, but it's there?
Yes.
And
I don't have an attorney on retainer, so I'm not wasting it.
The county attorney functions as your attorney as well, right?
Yeah. Well, except for when I have trouble with somebody else within the county, then he's your attorney, not mine. So if I sue the Quorum Court, I will need special counsel.
I think we might too.
I'm going to recognize the attorney here.
Yeah, I'm confused about this.
If one of the elected officials sues another elected official, or y'all, or I'm getting out of everybody's.
I think we all need our own lawyer.
Yeah, I would recuse. I would disqualify myself entirely, just to make that clear. I represent the county, and 99.999% of the time, there's no conflict between elected officials and the Quorum Court, each other. Individual JPs, but if there ever were the situation where one set of you being the broad elected officials to include the Quorum Court, sued another one of you, I'd get out completely. Thank you.
I guess I sort of think that if you've got it, then I feel like everybody ought to have this. I feel like the Quorum Court ought to have it, and every separate elected official. So I'm not really following the need for this, given that we've never had to use it, and I don't know that I could foresee next year that you would have to sue the Quorum Court, I hope. So, I mean, is there something you're concerned about and that you don't want to talk about, or are you just trying to be better safe than sorry? I don't.
Well, it's like I say, I'm trying. Well, I don't know whether I've officially announced this, but I'm going to retire in 1 year and 2 months. And I want to leave my office and my budget the way I found it, and that was already in there when I took office, and it is to protect the collector. And that was the explanation that was told me. And then when, if anything comes up that's against my office, that I feel like we need to put this in a court of law, we can settle the argument. And that's how you settle arguments. You know that.
I don't think I can support that. I mean, I understand the logic, but I just don't think I can support such an odd contingency in a budget. That I feel like if we do it for you, we're going to get requests like that for a lot of people. We've tried to get away from those contingencies. Poor Ron Wood, we've told him you've got to make do with less and less every year, because and he lives sort of always sort of in an unknowing situation. So, but let me ask you, you showed significant increases in the postage, internet, and I think the internet is probably because of the new, is that the new location?
Because the new office, we have to have a T1 line, and it's going to be quite expensive.
And what about the increase in postage? That's a pretty sizable increase.
Since I've increased the postage has gone up, and then we are doing more mail outs, and then the more we're actively engaged in collecting delinquent businesses, we use postage, and we still we have cut our postage down significantly, trying to conserve. We take a lot of part payments. We do not send back a receipt except on the last one. When it's a zero balance, we send out a paid receipt. And so we have cut our postage significantly when you're making part payments. And if you have an email address, you will get that first. And so we have cut where we could.
And then you show an increase in your advertising and publications budget.
That's just because of the increase in the number of population in the county. This is something I get back. Y'all have to front the money for me to publish, and then these people are delinquent. They will pay me. It goes back in the vicious circle. Comes back to you.
Well, I would move to approve this minus the $4,000 for the special legal.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Hang on. J.P. Lloyd.
J.P. Madison asked most of my questions, of course, the first one being that special legal. But I'm still concerned with the postage because now you're doing so many things by email. I mean, you're giving us letting us know that we've paid and things like that through email. So I'm not so sure that, and looking back at the other postage, what you've spent each year, 53, 52, 55, and then through half of the year, I don't know.
Well, see, our biggest time was just the last few weeks. You don't have records that we've taken in so many.
So do you know how much you've
hundreds
spent?
and thousands of letters, and we've sent out receipts to them.
So do you know how much you've spent so far in postage? Has it been more than 60? I mean, you've said that's what you've needed for the year. I mean, you're asking 10,000 more. That's quite a jump.
Well, and like I said, the postage just went up. I think it's 2 cents since we have asked for an increase.
Okay, did the email take any of the postage responsibility off of you, sending things by email?
Yes, yes.
And that's where I'm going with that. You're now emailing out statements and things, but you're still asking for a $10,000 more in postage, which to me, it would almost sound like it should be reduced because we're doing so many things by email now, which I think is a great thing that you're doing it by email. I mean, I was happy to receive my email. I knew that you guys got my tax bill.
Yeah. We just don't want to run out of postage at the end of the year. And we're just...
Cheryl, do you know how much you spent in postage so far?
The bills have been paid. He's spent $49,771 to date, but there may be some bills out there that we haven't paid yet.
Probably this month, which is a big month on top of that.
He's spent 82% of his postage budget already this year.
That being at the 60,000. So he's at 82%.
Yeah, you also have a lot more people to collect from, you know.
Yeah, there's an increase in population yearly.
But we're doing a lot by email too. That's my point. I mean, I'm concerned that we're asking for 10,000 more and we're being more efficient with the emails. That if we weren't, I mean, maybe I could see that if we weren't doing anything by email anymore, if it was just strictly postage. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If it was just strictly postage, then yes, I could see that, oh, well, you need 10,000 more, but you're doing quite a bit by emails now. And I understand that because I receive the emails and I don't receive it in the mail. Thank you, Judge.
J.P. Ecke.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Judge. Mr. Ruff, can you explain to me your internet connection amount? Now, you said this is for the new building?
A lot
Correct?
of it is, yes.
A lot of it is. Would you do me a big favor? Can you give us, I guess, a report from the IT department on exactly what their expenses are and what they are, I guess, suggesting you purchase for this new office? It looks like sometimes we get sold a thoroughbred when we need a good stock horse from IT. And if there is room to cut that amount out of the budget, it would greatly be appreciated from this.
Well, usually
Justice
we deal
Court.
with like Cox, and we don't have no competition. And so we're stuck.
Is that just for the connection? That's not for the setup? That's not for any equipment, cameras,
And that's-
computers, nothing.
See, we're also have the phone system on there, the fax system on there, and with the computer system.
Right.
And all that's,
But could you ask the IT director if he could give you an itemized cost of what is being assessed to your office for us to fund? Other than just the connection. Is this just for the connection, or is this to set up your new office? I mean, if I just need some clarification on this, maybe I should be on some medication to have an excuse
That's all right.
for not understanding.
Yeah.
I want to support this, but I want to make sure that you're not getting sold something that you don't need and being asked to pay for it when you don't have to. And then that leaves your budget in a lot better shape than
Yeah,
what it
well,
is.
that's really none of your business. That's my business.
I understand
I
that.
am the collector. I do
Yes.
work on this on a daily basis, and we're trying to operate within our budget.
And I
we
understand that.
We see increases coming, and our increases, you can look at our budget, but you can't see that what our last budgets have been for the last 4 or 5 years. They've been flat. And so we've taken this opportunity to try to get back where we can, breathe a little bit.
But then doesn't that make it my business by doing that? With all
Well,
due
yeah,
respect?
it makes your business on the total dollar. And if you want to cut it, cut it. That's your business.
I want to make an educated decision, is what I want to do. And I want to do what's right for the county. And if this is right for the county, you bet your bottom dollar I'm going to do the right thing. But if it's not right for the county, then I'm going to ask a question. And, sir, that's all I'm asking is a question.
Okay, what's your question? What is your question?
My question is on your internet connection. The amount seems large to me. And I asked, is this for the new office that you're going to be having? Or what is this equipment for? Is it just for connection? Or is it wiring and new wiring and cameras or landline? I'm asking you what it's for.
We do have cameras because it protects our clerks. We have down cameras and forward cameras so we can see who we're dealing with. We can see if they've been shortchanged. We are putting in 4 cameras.
Okay, you are putting in 4 cameras.
Yes. Plus a server, it's all equipment that goes in down there.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know. That was my question. Thank you, Madam Judge.
Let's see, the next one we have. J.P. Harbison, were you on the list?
Yes. Did we have a second to Eva's motion?
Yeah, we have a
Okay.
motion and a, yeah, you're next, yeah. J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Madam Judge. Mr. Ruff, I take great offense at your comment to J.P. Ecke. This is our business, and if you would like to withdraw that, I would find it very gracious of you.
Ecke at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I was prepared to vote against your budget over that comment, so
I'm sorry.
I'm glad to have that cleared up. Now, I did have some
I might
questions.
be hungry. I don't know.
I could say the same thing.
Does anybody have a Snickers bar? Maybe we can get another person.
Let's keep order. Let's go on about the budget. We're
You
getting to the end.
initially said you reduced your budget by $2,600 by eliminating the food item.
Yes.
But I believe you said that our page here that we have in front of us, page 85, is not correct, where it shows your entire request at $1,252,704. What is your... Most people have given us an updated sheet.
Well, they didn't give me an updated sheet. I've got 1,288,155.
1,288. What?
1,288,155.
Okay, so you eliminated $2,600 in food.
Yes.
Where were the other increases?
Well, there's there's a decrease on medicine and drugs from 200 to 100. There's a decrease in parts and repair. No. Let's see, that's a total. We reduced the phone and fax landlines from 3,000 to 2,000.
David, hold on just a moment, please. Cheryl or Karen, do they have the wrong page? Everybody seems to have a lot of confusion here.
Apparently, I've got the wrong page because I don't have what he has.
It hasn't. I've got 1,000,003. That's what my page says.
1,252,000.
Mine says 1,003,17.
I put that at the bottom.
Mine's dated 9/18.
Mine doesn't have it.
I have one I've marked old
This is what's sent to me.
that says 1.3 million. I have one that I've marked new that's dated 9/18/2015 that says 1.252704, and he's saying it's 1,288. I don't. I'm not sure what the original motion was based on, whether it was based on our book or whether it was based on his numbers.
Hang on just a moment, please. Cheryl, what's the problem?
I believe your book is right. When Mr. Ruff and I originally discussed his budget, I was confused on how many employees he was asking for. And so the one he had was one of the original ones, and it had more on the full-time employees.
So
full-time
what the
salaries.
JPs have is correct?
Yes, it is.
What you have in front of you is correct then?
So we should subtract 2,600 for food that's listed here, plus the 4,000 for special legal. Is that right, Ms. Bollinger? I mean, the motion in front of us. The page I have is September 18th.
Okay, the food hadn't been subtracted off of this, looks like.
So it needs to be subtracted. And the motion subtracts the 4,000 in legal. So we need to subtract $6,600. Is that correct?
Okay.
Well, that's what the motion is. There's no amendments necessary.
Well,
Okay.
I'll accept the 2,600 as a friendly amendment to my motion.
I think I seconded
Needs to
it.
come from the second, too, as a,
I think I
it
seconded
was your, yeah, then, okay. Then-
Because that's what he told us he'd done.
Yeah.
So, okay. I'm happy I'm clear. Thank you, Judge.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. What you have in front of you is correct. Sorry, David, that's, okay. Any other discussion?
Judge, may I restate, please?
Yes, please.
I understand the motion now to be to approve the budget as presented with the exceptions of $4,000 in special legal line item and $2,600 in the food line item.
Point of clarification, was there not another line item that he said he had zeroed out or reduced in addition to
And I
the
never
food
tell
budget?
you, but I did this as my copy, and I didn't get back with you on that.
Okay, we're good. We're good.
David, so now you've zeroed out your food.
Yes.
What other line item did you zero out?
I didn't zero any out. I reduced several. Medicine, telephone and fax line, and mileage.
So the only one that you took out of your budget this time was your food? You took that all out?
I took it completely out.
Okay, so that was the 26 plus
Yeah.
4,000?
I took it out of my budget, and I did not verify that with Cheryl,
Okay,
apparently.
okay, so what you've got, Carly, would you call the roll on that, please? Everybody understand what you're voting on?
You're-
Hang on just a minute. Sharon, I'm sorry, JP Lloyd.
How do I do with the, doing the postage back to 60,000? What do I,
do
we vote on hers first?
no, if you vote on this now, you are voting on the postage, the whole budget as presented minus the food and the special legal. So a vote on this to approve Justice Eva Madison's motion would leave the postage as presented there.
Okay.
You'd have to do something now about that.
Okay, to make a motion?
You have to do an amendment.
I'd like to make an amendment that we reduce the on his 2016 requested budget from 70,000 to 60,000.
I'll accept that as to the main, as an addition to the main motion.
Okay, thank you.
Justice Sue Madison? All right, so now, as I understand the motion, you're voting on approving Treasurer Ruff's budget, less 4,000 special legal, less 2,600 in food that should have been zeroed out that was not, and then a $10,000 reduction in his postage line item. Is that correct from the movement side?
That is correct.
Does everybody understand that?
Yeah. J.P. Harbison?
I was going to ask this question a while ago, but I thought that it had been, do you mail out all tax assessments when you redo them? Are all of those mailed?
Tax statements.
Statements, correct.
Those are, by law, we mail out to the last known address.
All right, but you mail all of them, correct?
All of them, except now we have a new law, we mail out all of them, except the ones we have a email address that they have requested we use.
How many email addresses do you have?
We've got 46,000, but only, how many had requested it?
Maybe 20,000.
But about 20,000 had requested that. They still want the paper.
They still, so you're sending the paper tax bill to them?
To everyone except the ones that requested an email only.
Okay, what's your total mail? I'm trying to determine because I really think you need this postage. I don't think this is, the email thing is so new, unless it's the younger generation, most people don't do things by email. There's still a lot of people that don't have computers, and so I'm trying to determine, I guess if you come up short, you'll have to come back and ask for additional money for postage.
Okay,
That's
now-
my only comment.
Okay, J.P. Lundstrom here has got the exact figure on what the change is going to be with the reduction. J.P. Lundstrom, would you tell us what that is, please?
$1,236,104.
And Cheryl's shaking her head, so, okay.
So it's about 54,000 some dollars higher than last year because of his new office. and
Right.
Computers and so forth, so.
Thank you, Tom.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Carly, would you call the roll, please?
Joe Maxwell.
Yes.
Gary McHenry.
Yes.
Joe Patterson. Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman. Rick Cochran. Robert Dennis.
No.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Okay, the next one we have, David, is going to be your Collectors Automation Fund.
Okay, we've moved some money around on that more than anything, and we did increase it 18,000. It's a little bit hard to tell exactly where that increase is at, but it has to do with the computer equipment, I think, down there at
Revenue
the
Office.
Razorback Road down there.
Any questions? J.P. Madison?
Thank you, Judge. Now that I know about automation funds, thanks to the county clerk, what is the balance in your automation fund?
I have been putting $150,000 in it every year. And then that's pretty well my baseline. This right here is what you have approved for me to use out of that. And so really this is the amount, and then at the final settlement, it all goes back out.
What is the current balance?
Cheryl.
Ms. Bollinger, could you help us with that?
This automation fund and the treasurer's automation fund, those are different. They're based off of commission, and so they can put a lot more in there than they do every year. They only put enough in there to cover their budgets The rest is given back to the taxing entities or the entities that it's collected from. So they don't have a certain amount that they put in there. They can put in up to a certain amount, and it's a really large number, but they don't do that.
So what goes into this particular automation fund is at the discretion of the elected official?
It is, and he like he said, he usually puts about $150,000 in there, whatever it takes to cover his budget, and the treasurer does the same.
And we appropriate it every year?
You still have to appropriate it, but they're the ones that get to decide how much they put in there. They could put in a larger number and not give it back, but they choose not to do that.
Okay, thank you. It's a different animal than the collectors, than the
Yeah.
county clerk's automation fund then.
I try to keep enough in there so that we can replace our computers, our printers, and in case, of a total disaster, and to update our equipment. Right now, it's about 5 years old, all of our computers. I changed them all out at one time, all the computers, all the printers.
What's the small equipment that went up or is expected to go up? It's going from 3,500 to 10,000.
Well, there's going to be scanners, there's going to be, what all goes in that, Melissa?
Calculators, printers, fingerprint readers, anything small equipment. We took out our regular and funded out of this one.
Okay. Thank you, Judge.
Sophia Lloyd.
Thank you, Judge. Correct me if I'm wrong, but on page 31, doesn't that give how much is in his collector's automation fund? And it says 72,000? I mean, I was going off of that. Is that correct? So if we're curious about how much is in an automation fund, we go to page 31 and look?
It's a weird animal. I put it in there one year and use it the next. And so it's a
So
little
would
bit-
that number 72,000 sound about right?
Well, I mean, what I'm putting in there right now is for next year's use, so I'm not sure.
No.
I try to end up with enough to match my budget.
That doesn't have anything to do with this year. Like he said, this is what Bobby's projected as revenue, and this is what Mr. Ruff has asked for as the expenditure, and so that's what you're seeing. What the current balance is could be close to that, or it could be nowhere close to that.
Current balance right now is 52,000.
Okay, there you go. All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't.
Do we have a motion on this
I
budget?
didn't think we had a motion yet.
Can I get a motion?
Harvey,
Collector's automation.
I'm sorry, Justice Bowman beat Justice Harbison to the punch. Do you want a second?
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Carly, would you call the roll, please?
Joe Maxwell.
Yes.
Gary McHenry.
Yes.
Joe Patterson. Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman. Rick Cochran. Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison. Sharon Lloyd.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Thank you, David.
I'd like to make one comment.
Sure, go right ahead.
On your raises that you're looking at, whether you're a percentage or amount or whatever. And I've always fought for this, and that's merit, which nobody wants to talk about too much. But if you give the same raise to two different people, and one person puts out twice as much work as the other one, this person comes to work every day. This one barely shows up, but just enough to keep his job. There's a lot of difference in employees, and that's where the elected official needs discretion to be able to move that money and reward good behavior instead of a mediocrity that our government seems to like to work under. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Now our treasurer, Mr. Bobby.
All right. Just one comment to get started on the treasurer's budget, page 83. You know, saw the blanks down in other services and charges. I have moved all of that into my automation fund. So from now on, with your approval, just personal services will be the treasurer's budget. So now I can take any questions.
Judge? I move to pass the treasurer's budget.
Everybody's tired.
Hey, that's pretty good. No, that's a good move.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Bobby, let's go to the automation fund.
Okay, the only comment there, when I moved it over, I think it was 7,000 something. I still came in under last year, so I cut 7,000 or 8,000.
I move that we pass the treasurer's automation fund.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have any citizens' comments?
Judge, Justice Madison wants to be recognized.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
I wanted to remind everyone that Thursday night is the 50 Shades of Stray fundraiser for the animal shelter. Tickets can be purchased at the door for $35. And we don't have a meeting Thursday. We canceled it.
And the Loving Choices banquet is that night.
Oh, it is. Well, I just want to remind everyone. My second announcement is those of you who've served on the court before will recall that we have always gathered money to buy the Thanksgiving meal for the kids at JDC. And so I wanted to give you advance notice that I will be collecting some money for that purpose tomorrow.
You have a suggestion?
You know, usually what we do is you give what you want to give, and if they have enough money, that they then will buy Christmas dinner with it as well. The past few years, I think they've had enough money to do both. But I think they just order pizza or something. But for the kids that have to stay down there on those holidays, we just try to make it be from us. And they always send us thank you notes and stuff. So that had been something that Candy Clark had dealt with previously, and I didn't want it to get missed. So bring some money tomorrow so we can buy the. Yeah, I'd prefer cash so I can just give it to Jeannie Mac. But if you need to write a check, I'll ask Cheryl how that should be handled. I don't know if they can do that.
They probably can't accept food.
I don't think they can accept the food, but I think they have to buy it. But anyway, so bring some money tomorrow. I'll continue to accept it. We've got a little time until Thanksgiving, but hopefully we can cover both the Thanksgiving and the Christmas meal. So thank you, Judge. I'm sorry for that.
JP?
Can you give us an idea how much they need for both those holidays?
I think I've given 20 before. I think one year I just had a 10. Just sort of give what you can. It's not a ton of money because it won't be a ton of kids down there. And that's why it's good because we've always had the overflow.
If there's anything left over, we'll find a use for it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Because it's just been our intention to do Thanksgiving and then they covered Christmas.
Okay, any more, I would ask for citizens' comments, but Daniel's the only one's left. I have a motion to adjourn. I have a motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Whew, long night, guys.